So I want to know right off the bat, what do you think about Jeff Nippard and Van Wyck in that fight? I want to know. I want to know how you analyze something like that. How you do your due diligence on your research, and how you take like something that is prevalent, trending right now in fitness, and create some type of opinion.
When I first saw it, I just kind of like scrolled through it because to me it was like no big deal. It was social media.
Yeah.
Is this a script? Or whatever it was. I don't know, right? Because I don't spend that much time scrolling, compared to what other people would do.
Yeah.
Very little time on there. It's just basically DMs, scroll through a couple things, like a couple things, and basically right off the platform. And it was probably the day after when I started to see, oh, there's reaction videos after reaction videos after reaction videos. And then from there, I kind of saw this as, oh, I guess this is just the big next reaction video, the next drama that's going to start spinning across the circles that everybody's going to talk about. So I kind of immediately get turned off because I see what happens with these things. They just become these viral clickbaits that everybody kind of wants to jump on just to be able to make what they can out of the whole thing. And at the same time, this is coupled with, a lot of bodybuilders leaving a prominent bodybuilding coach and so forth. And it's, so that's how I first kind of saw the whole thing. Then after trying to figure out like what really transpired here, like, is this a scripted thing? And so then as I was trying to process that, I'm like, well, what benefit does this really give either one of the two? Because I'm assuming it's a scripted thing, while this is all kind of going on. Like, well, one guy's got, 5 million followers and the other guy's got a couple 100,000.
Yeah.
Like this, I don't think this is a collaboration that's really going to benefit anybody. And then it was more along the lines of how did this happen? How did this transpire? Then do I think it's, from what we know now, do I think it's wrong? Yeah. You just don't go basically throat punch somebody.
Yeah.
But it seems out of character, because I've had Mike on the podcast a couple times.
Okay.
And, through those dialogues and the time of him being out, I don't really see that as being this inherent part of his personality, that kind of lays into that whole thing, which is a little bit confusing to me, and because of that. And so I don't know, so I guess I'm impartial. Do I think it's wrong? 100%. I don't think anybody should throw punch or have violence in the gym at all, even though I've seen it, in training environments. And normally if there's something like that, 20 years ago, if something like that happened, it wouldn't be a viral thing. If one grown man has an issue with another grown man, they should, discuss the issue.
Do you think that's because of social, or do you think because people cared less back then?
I don't know. I really don't know. It could be that there's more going on with him than what anybody knows, to kind of just leave benefit of the doubt. You don't know what's going on, in his head that kind of led up, because this is still kind of uncharacteristic for him from what I know. Right.
Right.
And that's limited, to a guest on a podcast. And so again, not saying that the whole thing's right, but we've all had bad days and stuff like that where there's a tipping point, for everybody. But yet most of us can control what that tipping point is, when that is in there. So is it wrong? Yes, it's wrong. We don't know the whole story, from that, even though it probably wouldn't change my opinion that it's still wrong. From that.
Yeah.
We'll see what happens, kind of moving forward.
I guess off that is one, I didn't realize Jeff Nippard's like 5'5", 5'6".
Yeah.
I didn't realize how short he is. So I do think that does have an impact on my analysis. Not that that matters that much, but I've seen a couple fights in the gym. At my gym, I've only ever seen one fight break out with high school kids. But I was thinking about it, like in college, there was 3 of us that actually got into a fight, and me being one of them. And it was just like a pushing match, right? But we were all like, I'm just shortest. I was 6'1", and then the other 2 guys were like 6'3" and 6'5". And when when I saw Nippard next to him, I was like, I don't know, man. That'd be like me pushing my like 12-year-old son. Like he's about 5'5", or 5'6",
Hmm.
whatever. I do think that I don't know if that's right for me to feel that way, but I feel like it. Even if you, I feel like to attack someone that much smaller, I just feel like you've got to be really prodded or instigated, or you're in a bad headspace.
No, I would speculate, it's a bad headspace, but still it's still wrong,
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
On so many levels, you know, especially in a gym,
yeah,
you know, it's still if I have an issue with somebody, I'm going to discuss what the issue is, it's
right.
but if I'm to look at, another aspect is, you know, he just had a shoulder replacement, he's had hip replacement. To get involved in it on his end, just to get involved in any fight, bout, or whatever it's going to be with joint replacements and all this other stuff makes me wonder, is how much processing was really going on. Because with all the injuries that I've accumulated, the last thing that I want to do is get in a fight with anybody.
Yeah,
Right? Win, lose, or draw, I'm still going to walk away fucked up. Right.
yeah.
So if he's, pushing, jamming somebody with an arm and the
It's
shoulders
gonna
all
hurt.
jacked up, it's gonna fucking hurt. So I don't the lack of processing, I guess, and kind of social awareness as well. I mean, it's a gym that people are filming content all the time,
Right.
and there's security footage, and I mean, just that lack of social awareness is baffling.
Yeah.
Because you may want to do that really, really bad, you know, but you would stop and think, everybody's got a phone, and here everybody's, filming things. There's security camera. So you would think that all those things enough, just assume, forget all the other stuff, that because there's layers, of deterrent,
Yeah.
or the word I'm looking for, layers to prevent you from acting on whatever your emotions are. Right. First off, it's a public space. You don't want people talking about all this other kind of stuff. Secondly, this, I'm bigger than this person. There's all this processing, and then there's all these
And
different
that's where he
layers.
works too.
Yeah, it's where he
Yeah.
works. It's
Yeah.
his job. There's all these different layers, of processing that we would all go through, and I would assume, he would go through as well, unless it just snapped and then all those layers are kind of removed,
Yeah.
from that. So that's kind of where I would be on that. I'm not, again, I'm 100% not saying that it's right or any of that in any way whatsoever. It shouldn't, none of that should ever happen in a gym in the first place, because the other factors to consider is he's a big dude, looks like, bodybuilder, looks like a power lifter. We all got stereotypes to begin with.
Yeah.
That certainly isn't helping, any of the stereotypes that we have, especially now that it's viral, so if, there's any other bodybuilders or jacked, bald fucking guys that are walking around, there's a lot of them. There's already this predetermined stereotype that we all have.
Yeah.
I was made aware of this when I was in high school, by a CEO of a warehousing company. And the way it was presented to me is you understand how people are going to perceive you,
Yeah.
just as you walk through. Now, what you do next is first off, you got their attention,
Then you try and shatter it.
which is good.
Yeah.
Right. You have their attention. So that's an advantage. But what comes out of your mouth next is going to determine if you're going to actually make them believe that you are the stereotype or make them not. Right. And that's something that anybody that's big, jacked, or whatever you want to say has. When something like this then goes viral kind of across the board, as it was, because I think it now was just posted by TMZ,
Yeah.
that's not helping everybody else.
Right.
Right. So see, there's another layer of processing there too. So there's all these different layers of processing, which intriguing to me is, what happened to be able to make all those layers of processing fail.
Yeah. And yeah. So that then it's like to make that many things fail, because you have so many governors around it. It's like, I mean, to me, I relate it to like, actually, when I was driving here, there's a guy following me on the left lane, and he's like flipping his lights on. And I was like, dude, I could lose my mind right now and have road rage, or I could just gut over and just let this guy
Well,
go.
there's a show it's funny you say that. There's a show on Netflix I just watched a few days ago where I can't remember the name of it. It's a movie. And the girl's parked at a stoplight, or no, a truck's parked at a stoplight. She's just like fucking laying on the horn,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So the guy follows her and basically politely asks, how come I didn't get a courtesy tap, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And then she's basically just says, "Screw you." You don't. He wanted an apology, so like, "Screw you. You don't get my apology." And then the whole rest of the movie is just him fucking up her life. He killed like 7 different
Oh my
people that were associated
God.
with her. She ends up killing him in the end. But that's like road rage. It's epitome, right? With
And
that whole thing.
yeah.
And which is, there's obviously, this dude didn't have governors in this movie either, because
Right.
it's a famous actor too. I can't remember who it was at this time, but it killed an hour and a half of my time. Right. But I didn't relate that to this until you just kind of like said that. So I don't know.
Yeah. It sucks. And I wanted to ask you on top of that, connecting Israel to this, one thing I wanted to bring up too was what, a stereotype is roid rage and things like that. So what would be in the realm of powerlifting in your time in the gym, where there's a lot of personalities, a lot of larger than life individuals, a lot of aggressive individuals, likely on PEDs, what would be like the craziest experience in this regard that you've experienced of yelling or throwing something or hitting somebody?
Oh God, there's a bunch. One of the funnier ones was, I don't even know how it happened. I think it was somebody borrowed somebody else's bench shirt and they didn't give him the bench shirt back, but it was at West Side when it was on Dimmerst, and we were speed benching at the time. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, say 5 of us kind of like rotating our sets through. And as we're doing this, these 2 people collide right in front of our bench. Right. And it really wasn't a fight, because the other guy just basically beat his ass. But, so while this is going on, we never skipped a beat. So we just all just kept doing our sets. It's just whoever was on deck waiting to be the next lifter would kind of like stand as a blocker to make sure that this didn't come through. But that was essentially just, a punch, throw to the ground, and it's down. Couple things pretty much just like that. Nothing that was like this argument that led to certain things. More than likely, I saw Louis bash himself in the head with a 10-pound plate several times because he would get so pissed off at somebody. But, just things like that. Nothing that would equate to what we saw there, because usually both parties were associated with whatever the conflict was.
It's interesting because I wrote down here coaching fights. I personally have had, as a coach, screaming matches with an athlete based off of something that they didn't do, or something that I thought they did wrong, or something that, actually, ironically, last year in February, we had like a screaming match over technique and the discus throw. And even in that case, we went on for like 70 minutes, and the one thrower was like, "Can you guys go over there?" And it made me think about this situation, and the fact of like, would I have ever wanted to throw down? Like, no, not over that argument, because it wouldn't, it's not a personal enough thing to throw down. And that's where, going back to Van Wyck and what you had said about, almost about like tipping through those governors or whatever you want to call them. It likely he felt wronged in a very high sense, likely at a point in maybe while he is struggling.
Well, that's what we assume, right? Because we're assuming it's because of a video that Jeff made.
Yeah,
right.
That's fair.
So, and we don't really know that. Again, I'm not saying this is right nor wrong, right? I'm just that's the assumption that that's what it is. You don't know what the history is, or any of the stuff through there. Granted, I don't know Jeff. I've seen his videos. He seems like a very polite, it seems like the last person in the world to be able to start anything. Where the other question I think that's been posed is, would Mike have done that if somebody was bigger? On my speculation, and all those governors that kind of failed, yeah. On that day at that time, it probably didn't matter, how big nor small somebody was, because all those other things failed. He's old enough that he's had enough experiences through his life, through bouncing and all these other things, that he the governors all failed,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So there was obviously there was no what are the ramifications of this action going to be,
Right, right.
right? That wasn't there, So with that in mind, if the guy was, you know, a 7 foot strong man, I don't think it's going to make any difference.
Yeah, he's still gonna go.
Yeah, the result might have been a little different.
Okay, so I wanted to